And now, the next story, Fish Shakes by Amy Tan, is a much shorter story than The Gift of the Magi. And I think, in my opinion, like might be clearer and more relatable to you guys. So before we get right into it, make sure you have read the stories so you know what I'm about to explain. Okay? Fish Shakes, well, is written by an author, okay, and her name is Amy Tan. But name here, it's the author's name. We don't know that her birth name could be something else, but she calls herself the author, okay? She calls herself Amy Tan. And this is a quote. You see, this is a quote from Amy Tan. When you see this, it means this is her words, okay? Not the authors, not the writers or the authors who's using that word again. Who knows where inspiration comes from? Perhaps it arises from desperation. Perhaps it comes from the flukes of the universe, the kindness of the muses. So she's talking about maybe, so imagine that she's in an interview and someone asks her, oh, where do you get the inspiration for your stories? And she actually might not know, but instead of saying, oh, I don't know, she's implying that her inspiration could comes from anywhere, okay? Not just, I don't know, but like, oh, well, who knows? She doesn't know the origin of inspirations, but she knows that sometimes, okay, it arises from desperation. So when she feels desperate for something, well, that's when she begins to write. Could be that. Or perhaps it comes from the flukes of the universe. So maybe she just, like one day walked in a park and then she tripped, like maybe not like in Thailand, okay? That like you've got like the lid of like a waste sewer opening and then you tripped and then you got like injured. Could be a fluke like that, okay? Because you are inspired to write a story that like criticize the government, for example. Could be, or could be the kindness of the muses. So like in Western culture, they believe that there's these like not like gods, okay, but maybe sub-gods are not as powerful as gods, but an entity that helps writers, artists, anyone who use art to create something to the world. Like this entity will help with the inspiration, okay, that they will sometimes they enter the artist's dream, the writer's dream, and then inspire these people to create their arts, okay? Muses are in that way. Now, she's Chinese American. You see, there are two nationalities here. She's an American because that's like the main noun here, okay? But the adjective that like modify this is that she's also Chinese. So she's a Chinese descendant living in America, okay? Chinese American. And she, in her interview, okay, she read to escape. So sometimes you read to go into another world to escape the reality. And she dreamt about writing for sure. And her dream came true when she was 33 or 34. So even for you guys, you might think it's too late to be a writer. Who knows? Because she starts late. See, Amy Tan, she starts at 33, 34 that she got her works published. Okay, so keep trying. If you want to be a writer, maybe these days you can write stories in Thanbalai, in Dek Di. There are more platforms than before. And the phrase that นักเขียนไส้แห้ง might not be true anymore. Who knows? Okay. Now, question on comprehension. Okay, so when you read the story, think of why did the narrator cry when she found out that the minister's family would come to dinner at her house? Why does it begin like that? Does it mean that the narrator already predicts the outcome of the dinner? She already is aware of the differences between the minister's family and her own family, that she already dreaded the outcome, the disaster that this could cause. Could be, okay? And after you read it, you see that she's embarrassed about her Chinese family. Why do you think that is? So think a question this way is actually about what you call question about motivation, maybe the character's motivation, and why does she think that way. So we are trying to put ourselves in her shoes. Why? And next, what did characters in Fish Chick eat on Christmas Eve? So notice the food on the table, okay? See how it's described, okay? Does it sound good, or does it sound delicious, or does it sound ew? Like, you can see that from the viewpoint, how the food is described there, okay? You see, they eat prawn. Chinese people see prawn, cod, tofu, and squid. We would have felt like, ooh, seafood. I love seafood. That sounds nice. But maybe for Westerners, they usually eat just one meat or two meat in a meal. Could be only beef or chicken, but they rarely eat everything in the same meal like this, and especially not during Christmas Eve. See, so you already see the differences. Next, why was the narrator really depressed during the dinner? So now when you see the character's description, she felt embarrassed, she felt happy, she felt this and that. You should also be able to identify why does that happen. Why does she feel embarrassed by the event? Okay. Well, she's embarrassed about her family, relatives, because Chinese food, they serve Chinese food instead of traditional American food for Christmas. So she knows that her family is different, and feeling these differences makes her feel depressed because she wants to impress the boy, okay, the minister's family too. Now, how did the 14-year-old Tan feel about her Chinese background? We can see from her description, okay? She dislikes it. Look at the adjective the narrator used, okay? Look at the description, like I said. You can feel that she dislikes her family background because it makes her different from other Americans. So being between two worlds, between two families, between two cultures, that can cause stress, that can cause depression, okay? Next, what are the mother's lesson and the true purpose behind her particular menu? If you read until the end, you can see like her mother's reaction and her mother's words to her daughter. And you know like what's her intention. Well, if you read the story, you know that the mother has good intention. She knows what American Christmas dinner looks like. Okay, that's the truth. She knows what it looks like, what is served in the American restaurant, but the mother chose to provide Chinese food. Okay, and that is to keep her here, keep the daughter, keep the narrator, okay, rooted. To keep rooted means to stay true to your culture, stay true to your history and background, okay? That you don't have to do everything in other people's way. You can still, keep your culture, believe in your culture and do what your parents did without compromising, your integrity, okay? So to keep rooted. And that others should know and like her the way she really is. So what the mother is trying to teach the daughter, or the narrator in this case, is that if it's better to show who you really are, who the family really is, than just pretending, okay? If she served like American food, okay, maybe the guy will have like good impression with the girl's family. And if they actually get to date and be boyfriend, girlfriend, he might feel shocked and betrayed later if he knew that, actually during Christmas, they eat something different, okay? And then it might be worse for the daughter, see? So you should not be embarrassed. You should be proud to show what your culture actually looks like. Maybe it's not at the same standard as others, okay? But at least the other people should know like what your culture look like really, without having to pretend, okay? And see, to present her real identity. So don't just go with the flow, don't just wear what everyone wears, and believe in what they believe, other people's belief. You have to keep yourself, be true to yourself, okay? Now, the question on short story elements now, those are about the content, okay, about what happened in the story. But what about the short story elements? What happened in the story? You have to be able to explain the plot. Who did what? Well, a Chinese girl had a crush on an American boy. That's the truth. That's the plot. Then her parents invited Robert's family to her house for Christmas Eve dinner. See? What happened? At the start, there is a Chinese girl. She had a crush. Then her parents invited her Robert's family. When you explain this is a plot, okay? Events, an order of events that take place in the story. Then she is really sad and embarrassed about her Chinese background. And in the end, her mom gave her a gift and taught her to be proud of her identity. See, this is the plot. And what about the character? Do you notice that? Can you describe the character Amy? Can you describe the narrator? Well, you could say, okay? You could say that she's easily embarrassed, หน้าบาง in a way, or then supported. Why do you think she's like หน้าบาง, something like that? But you also got other characters in the background, okay? You see Amy's feeling. What point of view is that? See? Look at the pronoun used in the story. You got the narrator Amy, and do you see her inner thoughts or do you only see her actions? Okay, and you also got minor characters in the background. Amy's mother and father, Robert and his family, and also Amy's relatives. Now, who is the protagonist? Of course, one clear protagonist. Amy Tan, the narrator. See? Sometimes the narrator is the protagonist. Sometimes the narrator is not the protagonist. So make sure you can distinguish between these two words. Okay? What are his or her characteristics now? Described. You can say she's unconfident. It means she's shy. She's not confident. She's reserved. She's ashamed of her Chinese background. These are the things you can see from the story. And what is the antagonist? You don't actually see the antagonist. แม่เป็นตัวร้ายหรือเปล่า แม่ตบลูกก็ไม่ใช่ The mother and father just provide dinner. But actually the antagonist here, you see the conflict. But who... The parents create the conflict? No. The family just did the action. But the conflict happened within herself, okay, within Amy Tan. So actually the antagonist, what she has to overcome, okay, is her shame and her feeling. And once she overcame her shame and her feeling, ปลดล็อก right? She feels fine again. She what do you call it? The conflict is gone. She understands her shame and her feeling now. See? Sometimes not a person, sometimes it's a feeling. And how does it affect the protagonist? How does her shame and her feelings affect her? You can see that it makes her feel inferior. Superior means โอ้โหฉันเหนือกว่า right? Inferior ฉันรู้สึกด้อยกว่าด้อยค่ากว่า see? When it makes her feel inferior to others, meaning she values herself less than she values others' opinion. Setting. Can you describe the setting? Time and place a story takes place. We know from the writer's bio, right? Biography, that she's a Chinese American. So you can say that it happens in America. Okay? And the time we know is Christmas Eve, right? See? Amy's house. If not like America, at least you know it's Amy's house and the dining table. And you should ask yourself also, like, when you first step, identify each element. Identify plot, character, theme. Deeper level,นะคะ. Second step, ask yourself, why is it this way? Why Amy's house? Why dining table? One way to understand this is that Amy's house and the dining table is there for a scene, in the scene, because it's the time to get together for Christians. Okay, so if you like, okay, write a story about Christmas Eve, but you never use like dining table, like, or the food at all, that will be very, what you call, unusual, because the first image when people think of Christmas is the Christmas dinner. It's like a big piece of chicken, a very large chicken, grilled chicken, roasted chicken on the table, and then, okay, other characters talking, right? You see that atmosphere. Okay? That could be the reason why. Also, to show adjustment of a Chinese family. What better way to show like the differences in two cultures more than through food? More than through the etiquette on the table manners. For example, what better ways to show the relationship between people? ครอบครัวขยายครอบครัวเดียว In American, you see only the pastor, the minister, his wife, his son. That's it. But Amy's house เห็นไหมอะไรโอ้โห uncle แบบญาตินู่นญาตินี่แต่ไม่หมดสิ more people, more cousins. And also to emphasize on cultural differences, like I said. Okay. And now, do you notice the point of view used in fish shakes? You should be able to answer this now. It's the first person point of view I. See? First person point of view I. From what? From who? From the narrator. มี name ที่ด้วยนะ Amy Tan. But in some stories, you might not even until from beginning to end, you might not know who the narrator is ก็ได้. Okay? So it depends on stories. But in this case, we know that the narrator is also the protagonist. Now, think about how does it affect the reader's feeling. After reading this story, what do you think? This is like implication now. This is not exactly predicting the future, but predicting the response of the reader. There's a theory เลยนะคะแบบ called reader's response theory นะ that only focus on like the effects of the stories on the readers. You can read that more if you want. Okay. Well, one way to understand, one way to interpret is that readers understand clearly how, what you call, using this first person, okay, ใช้แล้วดียังไงใช้แล้วเวิร์กยังไงกับเรื่องนี้ใช้แล้วเวิร์กเพราะว่าจะเข้าใจอย่างแจ่มแจ้งเลย understand clearly how she feels. So using I เนี่ยโอ้โห you can ทะลุทะลวงความคิดเอมี่ได้เลยเห็นไหมแต่ถ้าแค่ว่าโอเค Amy is an American girl. She feels embarrassed. She has dinner with her parents. มันจะดูห่างไกลมากเห็นไหมมัน distance เนี่ยคนอ่านจะไม่อินกับเอมี่เท่าการใช้ first person เห็นไหมไอ้คำว่าไม่อินเท่าเนี่ยนี่ไงเพราะว่ามันถ้าใช้อินเนี่ยแปลว่าอะไรอินอธิบายมาสิอินแปลว่า understand clearly how she feels และ understand her attitudes towards everything ด้วยเหมือนเข้าไปอยู่ในจิตใจเอมี่นะอธิบายให้ได้อย่างนี้นะคะโอเคไหม Now atmosphere setting นั่นแหละ atmosphere คิดยังไงลักษณะการอธิบายอาจารย์ถึงบอกไง look at the words they use okay the food, does it sound delicious? Does it look like crowded? Does it feel like empty? Like all these words, right? If you read this, what is the atmosphere เนี่ย meaning, okay? Atmosphere คือ mood and tone. What do you think? แปลมาแล้วจะรู้ว่า actually you can actually feel her that she is uncomfortable, that she is embarrassing, that she feels embarrassed, okay? Because the way she described the food, the way she described the silence in the air, the way she describes like the facial expression of the minister family of the boy เห็นไหม and style เนี่ยsometimes บอกเขาเขียนสไตล์นี้เขาเขียนสไตล์นั้นแล้วยูรู้อธิบายได้หรือเปล่าว่าสไตล์คืออะไร writing style นะที่เนี้ย notice from อะไร noticing from the words they use ใช่ไหม the words เนี่ยมัน colorful ไหมหรือมันแบบ นิ่งๆเงียบๆแต่มาปังๆ minimalist หรือเปล่ามีแค่ไม่กี่คำอะไรเงี้ย simplistic หรือเปล่าหรือว่าโอ้โหเต็มไปด้วยศัพท์แบบเชคสเปียร์อย่างเงี้ยโอ้โหแบบสับสวยนะแต่รู้เกินฉันเข้าไม่ถึงหรือเปล่าเหล่านี้เขาเรียกว่า writing style ได้นะ and this one at least we know that you don't have to open dictionary often when you read this story, right? Then you can say that this story is written in a simple, short sentences, which is easy to understand too. And you can also think further ไปอีกว่าเอาแล้ว why ล่ะทำไมต้องทำสไตล์นี้เพื่ออะไรทำแล้วได้อะไร think ลองคิดดูนะว่ามันทำไมดูจากนี้ figurative language ถามว่าnormally in fiction the differences between fiction and non-fiction, right? With fiction, because you are not limited to only facts, you can put your opinions in there. You can put these imaginative events, imaginative things in the story. That's why you can use figurative language to make these sentences more fun to read, more understandable to read. How do you describe shame and feeling? If you just write, I feel shame. I am embarrassed by my mother. I feel very bad. อย่างเงี้ย These are all like big words, abstract words. That's why you want the reader to understand any feeling, right? So you use figurative language. How? The first one, imagery, right? Imagery, image, ภาพ picture, right? Imagery ทำให้เห็นภาพทำให้เห็น picture โดยการอะไร give readers ไม่ใช่ metal นะคะ mental นะอาจารย์ตก L นะคะเดี๋ยวนะmental โอเค mental pictures ทำให้เห็นภาพในหัวให้ได้อย่าเขียนแค่ว่าคาแรคเตอร์รู้สึกเศร้าแต่ให้เขียนว่า show not tell ค่ะเข้าใจไหม don't say the character is sad แบบบอกอย่างนี้ว่า the tears roll down her cheeks โอ้โหนี่น้ำตาไหลพรากนี่ก็ไม่ต้องพูดว่า sad เรารู้เลยว่าเศร้าเห็นไหมมีอะไรอีก simile เปรียบเหมือนอุปมา simile เปรียบเหมือนคืออะไร comparison between two things มีอะไรอีกมี2อย่างนี้ส่วนธีมสรุปสกัดออกมาได้ไหมว่าแม่ต้องการจะสอนอะไรเรื่องนี้ต้องการจะสอนอะไรเราธีม what is the lesson you have learned from the story ธีมเนี่ยbe proud of yourself เห็นไหมbe who you are show who you truly are เห็นไหมอะไรอีก etc อย่างอื่นอีกก็ได้เราอาจจะเห็นแบบ cultural maybe it's like cultural integrity could be cultural appreciation could be other things explain that be able to make sure you are able to support your idea okay and that's it that's the end of the slideshow if you have any more questions you can ask me in class or email me okay so good luck and bye bye